It was fun because we had a theater director. So there's so much scene work in this episode. It's not about sexy, broody shots. It's not about, big, huge, lots of extras, chaotic scenes. It's about two people talking most of the time, whether it's Dan and Keith, it's always about people talking, the brothers, the girls, and having a theater director for that was just so awesome.
Yeah. And I feel like you can see it in certain moments too, even choices that were made, like the stuff going on with the boys when they get into that fight. That feels, it's choreography. It does feel like stage work. And when it turns, oh, what a moment when you're like, oh my God, I can't believe Nathan hit him and they're fighting and it's crazy. Yeah. And then when he throws him on the car the second time, you're like, what is he doing? Yeah. And he goes for the keys.
Yeah, it was so good.
And the moment, oh man, where you realize, that was Nathan's way of putting them on the same team. Oh. And they have that sweet talk.
Yeah. Oh. I really was interested in that because my first thought was, why do you think Nathan gave Lucas that piece of information about his childhood with Dan?
And that's a real story too. Like those dads are so prevalent. I grew up with three brothers playing Little League Baseball, and then I cheered for football from fourth grade to my senior year in high school. And like those dads are real. The dad that will hurt you and humiliate you in front of an entire group of people, in front of all of your peers. That's a really real thing. And the way James delivered it was really effective because that humiliation lingers. That's not something that you get to take back later as a parent.
Yeah. Why did he give that information to Lucas, though? Out of all the posturing that they've been doing with each other and sort of constant playing chicken, and why now? It would have been so easy for him to just keep going. Why did he give him that info?
Do you think after the father-son game? Because that was terrible.
Like it showed Nathan had a heart.
Yeah.
It did. And you said something about a common enemy earlier, Hillary, and Joy, your question is kind of making me connect some dots. They had this horrible experience at the father-son game that made them understand that they share this awful thing. And then they go to this game and they start beating the shit out of each other. And the minute that they get out and they're stranded and this other team comes along, it's almost like it gives them a reason to realize that they do have a common enemy. They're not each other's enemy, but they're coming at each other over the same issue over and over and over again. And the minute they're given someone else to focus their attention, their anger, their hurt, their letdown on, they're playing for the same team. It's really good structure. And while all that's happening out on the road, you see Dan and Keith fighting. And Deb going, our son got kicked out of a game for fighting with his brother. How original.
Oh,
yeah. Calling Dan out. It's like, you're the same. Why do you think he's like this? And so you're seeing these kind of, this like dynastic long life moment. And then are the kids going to do the same thing or do it differently and do it better?
I loved this message of you can walk in somebody else's shoes. You can see things from the perspective of somebody that you would never talk to, that you'd never hang out with in our case. So even somebody that you really hate and have a long history with, there is still, hopefully we don't all want to bond over, a common enemy.
But if you have to.
But
it's like a worst case scenario.
Right, exactly. But, it's possible. It's just that I love anything that's talking about the triumph of the human spirit in that way, which I just think we really hit on in this, that there's always a way to connect with someone that's the other.
Well, or that's the same.
Yeah.
Like I read a political quote. It was 8 years ago. It was a long time ago. And it made so much sense to me personally because they were talking about a politician and one of their aides and how they were the same species of animal, right? And when they exist in the wild, they cohabitate beautifully. They hunt the same. They process the same. They interact the same. But the second you put them in a cage together, they try to kill each other because same animals aren't supposed to be locked in together. And it reminded me of how we all were behind the scenes because we are all so similar. We all had to be really ambitious as young women. We had to, forge our own way. None of us had family that could get us jobs and stuff. We had to scrapple. And is it scrapple? Is that like a breakfast or is that?
I love
like that.
I'm happy with scrapple.
Yeah. I don't know that that's the right word, guys. Joy and I are upness and scrapple today. Just
I want sorg on a t-shirt.
Sorg.
And I want scrapple on a t-shirt.
Upness.
I want them all. And upness. That's our tattoo.
Upness. Yeah, but I feel like when you lock any wild animal up in an unnatural habitat, it's going to freak out. And that's what the boys are doing in this episode. It's perhaps what we did behind the scenes some of the time because we were locked up. And the second we all were allowed to just take a breath, it was I love that you're the same animal as me. Let's hunt together. This feels nice.
Yeah.
Let's form a tribe.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see it play out in the storyline of the show, knowing everything that happened for the next 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to Deb and Dan.
She's so good.
Yes.
How classy is she? She
Yeah.
is so classy. I mean, yeah. They all fought in the room and it was dramatic and, that was sort of the big thing. But what really hit me was that moment in the hotel lobby with the two of them sitting there. And she could have said all of those lines real bitchy and real throwing a fit and going
She could have
upstairs.
yelled at him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Raised her
But
voice.
she didn't. She classed that up.
So good.
Hillary, I love what you said. We were talking about it while we were watching it, and you go, "Oh, she just seems so moneyed."
Yeah. Yeah, it makes her seem really rich, you guys. Rich people don't yell, don't be common,
I'm too rich to yell.
It's darling, I am never going to make a scene,
There's other people in this lobby. I would never let them know that I'm mad at you, but I'm mad at you.
It's so classy. And I have to imagine, if that was a audition scene, 99% of women would have thrown a shoe at Dan, or stood up and poured a drink on him. And she just, it
takes so much more strength to be still.
Yeah.
And it felt so powerful after her conversation with Keith. Deb going to talk to him, getting him a drink, and him getting to ask her, because he gets to be us in that moment, the audience, and say, why are you with this guy? And they get so vulnerable. And Deb and Keith being buddies is so delicious.
She's
and
walking a hard
kind.
line. That
You
is
guys,
tricky.
the whole time I watched it, all I could think about was the two of them in front of that fireplace years down the road.
Ooh.
Spoiler alert.
Yep.
The chemistry.
The chemistry.
The chemistry. Barb can create chemistry with a shoebox.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, so to watch the two of them smolder together and her in her cute dress and they both are just so, they've both been hurt by Dan in that scene and they're collaborators in that scene. And it's great foreshadowing to what's going to happen. It makes me excited for them to hook up years later.
Yes. And her in that moment trying to give him the courage to go for it with Karen. You realize Keith's been belittled by Dan forever. And for Deb to look at him and say, you should go for it. Yeah. She might see you as more than a friend. I almost feel like she's giving him a confidence boost that he's really lacking. And it's just it's so generous. And then with Dan provoking him and just being so cruel to him, and Keith trying to hit him and it going so awry, which is such a wound to pride.
I love that he missed. I love that he missed. And then he still was just I don't care. You're still an asshole. Yeah. He wasn't humiliated.
He wasn't, but oh God, what that gave when she came back to Dan. And that casual, I'm going to go upstairs and pack. When she said she got them a room for the night so they could have like a couple's evening away. And just that, like, I'm not sleeping with your ass tonight, you know?
Yeah. No,
Ooh, it was so nice.
And you know
He
she
ruined
paid
it.
for that room. You know that was on Deb's credit card.
Exactly.
I love that. I also didn't think about the fact that, like, if Dan's got this little brother syndrome thing, Nathan's the little brother too. It's like,
Yeah.
you know how, like, your trauma or your parents' trauma is like, I was a middle child. And so then they also, like, favor the other middle child that they eventually have because it's like, I can connect with you. I feel like Dan connects with that younger son energy that Nathan has, you know? And so resents Lucas the same way he resents Keith. It's like, why are you not bothered by anything? Why don't you want more? You know, it's competitive, but it's also, you know, Dan hates Lucas the way he hates Keith. He's just got a chip on his shoulder about older brothers. Can we talk about Brooke's cute little car? That's not an
I
Alpha
love
car.
that
The first
was
real
so
debut.
popular. That car was so popular when
That car was
when
so
this episode
popular
came
at the
out.
time. Do you remember how it
Because
had
remember it had the vase?
Yes.
Yeah,
The
you could put
flower,
a
you put the little
sunflower in it.
daisy in it.
Listen,
Yeah.
we're so basic that someone put a test tube in a car and called it a vase, and we were all like, we have to have this.
Wow.
What was your first car in Wilmington? What did you guys get?
Ooh,
Because a lot of us got our first car there.
I brought,
that's true.
I went to college in LA, so I brought my car out. But man, I do remember when we got the Bug. When they first talked to me about Brooke getting a convertible Bug, in my head it was like Herbie the Love Bug. I thought it was going to be a little vintage, cute, like classic Bug. And then they pulled up in the brand new one. I was heartbroken.
Oh,
and then I was like, well, I mean, yeah, if she's 16, maybe she's not into classic cars. I was just like Eeyore. I was so sad because I grew up going to car shows with my dad. Like classic cars are our thing. And I thought like, I'm going to get to drive around in a cute little Herbie. No.
And there was a very specific stigma around that car at the time. It was like, if you were like a rich daddy's girl, that was your car. And it was like a teen girl car. I feel like there were reality shows happening at the time, like The Simple Life or something, you know, like where, you know, girls in juicy suits were driving those Bug convertibles.
It's an exciting. I saw Katie Holmes driving that car once.
Really?
Oh.
In LA.
She doesn't strike me as a Bug girl.
No, me either. I mean, who knows? Maybe she was just test driving it. Maybe she was borrowing it. Maybe she's rent. I mean, I don't know anything. I don't know her. But I saw her turn a corner and I was like, huh.
Interesting.
I wouldn't have paid you for that car.
Did you get a car right away, Joy? I remember Joy talking to me about her dream car. She's like, one day I am going to get a cherry red vintage pickup truck. And by God, if she didn't do it, folks.
Dadgummit, I did it.
You did
it.
Got
What was your
myself
car
my
in
dang
Wilmington? I don't remember what you drove.
I feel like I don't remember. I mean, I know my first car in LA was a Mazda Miata, a little convertible Mazda Miata,
Ooh.
which didn't it was not an automatic, it was manual, and it did not do well on those hills like the hill, the sun up to La Cienega. What is that? La Cienega up to Sunset.
Oh
that
yeah,
hill?
up to Sunset. That's a brutal hill.
Yeah, there was a couple of times I was like, I hope this thing doesn't give out on me because I'm gonna roll all the way back down. I don't remember did I have a convertible in Wilmington? I really don't remember what my car was there. Do you guys remember?
I don't know. I went.
What did
I
you
had
have?
my parents back home in Wilmington or back home in Virginia. I was like, Mom, Dad, I need a car, and they found for like $2,500. It was like the cheapest car ever. It was a 1986 gold Mercedes, like a grandma car.
I loved it.
And it still had like the ashtrays in the armrests,
Yes.
you know? So you
Yes.
could just like
Tape
chain
deck.
smoke in there. And it was horrible. Like the windows wouldn't roll down, the AC didn't work, but it was a boat.
God,
and I
it was
loved
such
it.
a good car.
But like parking that downtown on a Saturday night was an issue. That's why like you guys at the Riverview Suites, I'd be like, it's cool. I'm going to park in your parking lot and then we'll walk. Yeah, I loved it. You know, being like real little kids and not knowing to get like a fancy car, you know, just being like, I guess it can get me to
we had
work.
no idea.
is so different from the experience that we see a lot of these like young actors with now, where they're like, oh, here's my Bentley freaking whatever. And I'm just like, what? You know, what happens when you run into something?
Yeah, it's a very common thing when you're that young to think, I have money, so now that means I must spend it on expensive things. That's not what money means.
No, guys, we're spending that on Fire Belly tacos and Hoegaarden beer. That's not a car. What are you talking about? Don't be ridiculous.
Save it. Don't spend it.
I definitely towed the line there, though, because I grew up like such a car junkie.
Yeah.
And I remember...
You got your fancy car.
Oh, man. I remember I bought myself... I had this cool old Toyota 4Runner. Fode-runner. What am I saying? I had this cool...
Upness, Fode-runner, and what's our others? What did I say?
Scrapple.
Scrapple.
That's
going to be our board game, the name of our board game. Drama
honestly,
Queens presents
we deserve it.
Scrapple.
We deserve it. We deserve
Guys,
a Scrapple.
we're sober right now.
We're slap happy. But I had this truck all through high school, and I did a commercial. And I remember in college, my dad and I, like, oh man, we were so dorky. My sweet dad. We were like really jazzed on that funny little BMW that came out as like the Bond car. Ooh. I don't even remember what it was called, the little 2-seater convertible. And they were so expensive, like so expensive. So that wasn't going to happen. And I did a commercial and I traded in my car. And I got like a little 3 Series 2-door BMW that had not a bell or a whistle on it. But I was like, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And I remember I like went home to pick up my dad, and he was just like, this is so cool, kid. And he gave me this like whole lecture about how he was really proud of me for making my own money. But anytime I wanted to buy something, I needed to calculate what it was actually costing me because of taxes. And then I needed to save at least 40% of that before I made it. Like it was a whole, and I was like, you're ruining my moment. I got my car. Just stop talking.
You
but
love cars.
Great
you
advice.
were a gearhead from like the jump.
I am.
Yeah.
I am. Yeah. I have vehicles.
You
Lots
could have
of them are
worked in
old.
Keith's garage.
I would have loved it.
Yeah,
what
man.
a cute twist. Oh, man.
That
If
would have been
Brooke Davis had gone to work
That would
for
have been
Keith
a really
Scott,
cute choice.
damn it, I would have loved that.
Hey, guys.
Yeah.
Let's just do it. Let's just.
Okay.
Let's do it. Well, let's talk about Keith.
Yeah.
Yes,
sweet.
please.
Right.
Exactly.
He is so freaking cute in this episode.
He's so cute.
He is.
That
I'm conflicted
scene-
about this last scene. As a woman as a woman who has taken care of too many drunk men.
Been there. I hear you.
You know,
Yep,
there's a
we know how
part of
that
me
feels.
that was just like, I really cringed. I was really just like, ugh, you know, the romanticizing of like, oh, it's okay that he's just wet. But you know, that being said, it's also not a habit. It's not like we've seen Keith just constantly being, it was just like one night he had a little much, like whatever. So maybe that's just me overreacting, but I did feel it fully when he said, I love you. I loved like just the honesty and that they really finally had a moment where they could just be really real with each other.
Yeah.
It felt really good.
When they each said, like, I felt like this was a date for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where and he admitted it in the sweetest little way. You know, Deb told me that maybe we were on a date and I should pretend, and you know, and her, oh God, and her saying I pretended too. Like,
How did they not kiss? It's like I'm
me.
thinking about what their high school experience was. So what is Keith? Is he supposed to be like 2 years older than Dan, or like was he a senior when Karen was a sophomore? Like, why didn't she go for him? He's so nice.
Maybe he was out of high school already.
Maybe he was in college by then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh man.
That would make me the most comfortable with their storyline if just like they didn't really know each other for the first, 4 or 5 years or something. And then he comes home from college and he's like, my little brother's an asshole. I got to help out. And then,
yeah.
they started their whole thing. But I love them. I always shipped Karen and Keith. Always
Me
did.
too.
Always did.
I felt like that was a miss, not really going for that.
Well, we got cheated. We got cheated. We needed at least 2 more years of Keith.
We really did.
Yeah.
And
We really did.
wah, wah. Let's talk about the baby-sized gun for a second because, oh, guys. Like, I talk about stuff that doesn't hold up. Like, even just in the span of our own show, to have this like laughable little starter pistol, in episode 6, and then 2 years later we're doing the Jimmy Edwards episode.
Yeah.
Like, if you're ever somewhere where someone pulls out a gun, it is not funny, and you should scoot immediately. I've been at those parties; they're not cool. Like, tell your friends who do that they're dumb. It's such a weird, random thing that I don't know that we needed in the episode, but
no.
I think they were trying to paint those dudes as hillbillies.
Yeah, and also like that the threat was real, the threat that something bad might happen to Nathan and Lucas, but I don't know, a knife would have worked just as well.
Yeah, better, I think.
A little butterfly knife,
That's very like Jets, West Side Story.
When you're a jet all the way. I mean, we had a theater director. They could have had a dance-off, guys, right there on the street. It would have been better.
I would have loved that.
Yeah. Unnecessary gunplay. That doesn't hold up. Talking about Nathan giving Haley the nod was a fun bit that came after that. What does it mean when a boy gives a girl the nod?
I don't know. It always feels a little cocky to me.
I mean,
look.
It certainly felt charged. Because in the episode, I mean, come on, when he looks over at you and goes like, hey, everyone's like, oh, everybody feels it. Like, wow.
Because he didn't do it to anybody else.
Nope.
Right. It feels good. I mean, it feels good to be on the receiving end of that nod.
Yeah, I mean, I just gave you a nod and you grinned. So.
See? I'm such a sucker. How you doing? You know what I mean? Like, just give me a little Joey. I'm all there.
You're like, oh, hi.
Is that what you go for, Joy? Is it just like, cool, guys. We're out for the night. This one nodded. It's a go.
We're done.
I get it. Jeff was a nodder when I met him. He was real like, so cocky. Yeah. And the nod. I mean, even still, all these years later, like if we're at a function and we're across the room,
that's
and
my
you
favorite.
get that nod and you're like, you're goddamn right. Let's do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's I don't know that,
so good.
Across a crowded room, that little quiet communication from your human, when you get the like, I see you, you're just like, yeah, you do. Keep looking.
Do we ever grow out of that? Are we going to be 85 years old being
hope
like,
not.
We don't.
Dude, we got the nod.
I have a photo of one of my ex-boyfriends at a party outside my old house, and it was like kind of all through the driveway in there. And everybody in this photo is looking, and I took the photo. Everybody in the photo is looking at each other and talking, and he's like deep in the crowd. And if you scan the crowd, you can see he's looking straight at me while everybody else is talking. And I was just, I love that photo.
My cheeks
even though we're
are
not
hot.
together anymore, I'm still like, oh my gosh, I love this photo.
I love that.
Do we want to talk about how humid it was in Wilmington and us all being in our winter gear outside in that heat with the hair and the stickiness and like, is that even interesting or should we just move on?
No, I mean, we can definitely talk about it because I think it's very prevalent in this episode. When you shoot nights on a show like this, they love wet downs. And what that means for the person at home is they drive a huge tanker truck onto set full of water and they spray down the roads because at night it reflects the light and it looks romantic and beautiful. Guess what I don't give a shit about? Wet roads. You know what I do care about? My hair. At 4 o'clock in the morning, like a wet possum out there. It is just...
and it was hot and we were in these winter coats because we were airing in the fall. And I remember sitting out there on that summer night in the heat. My hair was expanding like Viola Swamp, just kept going out and out. And, you know, your mic pack is sticking to your skin and this heavy coat. And I'm like eating peanut butter and apples or whatever the craft service would bring me. And just thinking,
is this forever?
Is this going to be forever?
Is this real
life? It was
life?
great, but...
That's always the funny thing is people go, how fun. And then they come visit and they're like, wait, this is gross. You're like, yeah. And I'm wearing a cashmere sweater and a leather jacket. because this is going to air in October.
Mm.
So hot.
Deanna has a listener question. She says, one of my favorite and most quotable episodes is season 1, episode 6. Every night is another story. Girl, same. She says, do you remember a specific monologue that really stuck with you from this episode?
Well, Nathan.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that the rectangle plus one is the comedic end of the spectrum.
Epic quote.
It is all the exposition. It's all the catching up that the audience that was finally coming to watch us needed. Delivered perfectly. And then the sensitive one was, Nathan, that sweet little bunny getting kicked in the ass.
Yeah, his being willing to reveal something. You know, there were these moments of kindness given in the episode, you know, theoretically in the middle of the night when all these people had been on these strange adventures together. And
literally in the middle of the night.
Literally in the middle of the night, because
we were shooting that at like 4 o'clock
probably
in the morning.
4 a.m. And it makes it all the more like, oof, you get that pang in your heart when the next day at school, everyone's just kind of looking at each other, but separate again. They fall back into their old ways. So yeah. Oh, tugs on the heartstrings.
It sure does. Guys, high school was hard. High school was so hard. But you want to do a most likely too?
Yes.
Shall we spin the magical wheel?
Is it most likely to play Gladiator?
Guys, I said this when you watched it. Get lost in the wilderness. That's perfect for this episode.
Most likely to get lost in the wilderness. You couldn't have done it better.
I said that fight out in the wilderness felt most like my high school experience because I remember like our basketball game. I actually got a text from one of my classmates' mothers on Facebook. We're Facebook friends. And she goes, I remember like the cops getting called to our basketball game because they thought that the Parkview kids were going to rumble with like the kids from like deeper in the county. And I was like, I'm so glad you reminded me of that. That is my high school experience. Like fist fights in the woods. So get lost in the wilderness. Which character and then which real life person? What are we thinking?
Is this one Brooke? I'm pretty sure this one's probably Brooke.
I mean, she kind of was lost in the wilderness, guys. Hearing birds.
But yeah, the thing about Brooke is though, she seemed to like there were just angels shining on her all the time. It seemed like things just worked out. So, you know, I feel like somehow she would have found her way out of the woods.
For sure. I agree with Brooke.
Yeah, I like that.
It's like Snow White, you know? You just kind of like, I'm going to stumble into this place and look, there's all these little men that are going to take care of me. Fantastic.
Perfect. Build me a house.
Build me a house. Cool. I like that one.
And then there's me, who was an actual camp counselor who led other people's children out of the woods.
Yeah, Sophia, you still do that stuff. You're always like in Montana in a river up to your ass, like fishing. Like
it's true.
Yeah, that's your deal. So you don't get lost. Who gets lost
I do not.
Out of our club?
I mean, who have we had to go back places for? I'm trying to think.
Well.
Would that have been
There
correct?
are some stories that are just not appropriate for public consumption. So let's come up with one that is.
It's Lee. It's Lee. It's 100% Lee Norris.
Yeah, it is Lee Norris.
We've had to get Lee out of some hairy situations.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I was going to tell a story and then was like, nope, can't do that. But yep, it's Lee.
You guys should know that Lee Norris is the most fun Saturday night you'll ever have in your whole life. And
truly.
Sometimes you have to double back to make sure
that he gets home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our Instagram followers have a verdict on how many times we crashed the comment, which by the way, Peyton almost crashed it in this episode, so it could have been.
Well, that's not the comment.
Well, but that was the bug.
All right, new question.
Right.
So Peyton has near misses.
How many total cars did we crash on this show? Because we all were driving each other's cars.
So many cars.
So that's our new question.
Okay.
But the comet was only crashed twice.
Thank you for your
Wow. Nathan in season 1 and again with Peyton in season 6. Guys, you all are the best.
We do so many takes that it feels like we crashed.
Yeah.
I mean, we did. We
times.
crashed it like dozens of times. Each time you guys saw it once. So
yeah.
Boom.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in. I know this was a long one, but we all loved this episode so much. We're not going to
So
talk
much.
your ear off this much on a regular basis.
I mean, maybe we
You
will.
want us to.
We've got all
Yeah,
the upness.
We've got so much upness and scrappling going on around here.
We have lots and lots. Wait, you guys, I saved something the other day that feels really relevant to show you. So this does relate to the last episode, but it still feels fresh in my heart. We were talking obviously about Haley's hat in the last episode, and we got a tweet from a lovely gal named Noelle who said, my theory, re the Haley hat situation, is they were trying to sneak in some Joey Potter Dawson's Creek vibes. Look at this
Word.
side by side of y'all. So I
my
saved this,
gosh.
and then there's how do I do this on
There's
Zoom?
Katie.
There's
Yeah.
Katie in a hat.
That's it. I see her.
And then
Same hat.
your hat.
Oh my
Was
gosh,
Lee
they were
Leverett
totally.
the same costumer on both shows?
Oh yes,
I
she
don't know.
was. She was.
No.
Yeah, I'm almost totally
Before
sure.
Carol came?
Almost totally.
Yeah, Lee was season 1 and season 2.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, they dyed Katie's hat a different color, or they just all bought everything at the same shop downtown.
That feels right.
Yeah.
We only had a couple places to go, but I kind of loved it. So really the whole reason I wanted to talk about that and, show it to people on the video portion is to say thank you to our listeners for your excellent internet sleuthing, because you are finding things that really help us out.
Sweet
Yeah,
detectives.
you guys are so cool. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, guys, we got another episode next week. We can't wait to see
Wahoo.
you. Have a beautiful week.
Bye.
Bye.
We're all about that high school drama girl, all about them high school queens.